All right, so the question was dissolving the social. You got the, you found it?
I just got void. I think having issues on its own.
Oh, okay. So we have birth certificate, social security, driver's license, and then everything else that comes after that. All these instruments are deeds of trust, letting you know that there's a trust somewhere that this is attached to. Because these things can't exist without there being a trust to attach to it. There's no.
Statement of live birth, is that also a deed of trust? 7.
The reason why they could do this is because we abandoned our birthright. If we were in our free national name, then there wouldn't be Negro, black, colored people to fill these holes. Because everybody else that has one of these that's not Asiatic or says that they're a slave from Africa or whatever, they can go back to wherever it is that they come from. They have a nationality that they can claim. Our issue being here is that these things got imposed on us, and then 20, 30, 40, 50 years of using this, which validates this, we come into the information that none of this stuff has to do with us. Right? Now, if you worked for 40 years, somewhere, wherever, right? And then you came into this information, it might not be in your best interest to dissolve this. Because you have 40 years of invested energy in this that would be recalculated as pension, I just realized something, that unemployment insurance is called employment insurance. They don't call unemployment insurance. They call it EI, which is employment insurance. But that funds is really for unemployment.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because when we're, say with our birth certificate, that's like a deed that is allowing us to be working for the government without anybody's consent or acknowledgement that we are actually working for the government in the capacity of an agent of government or performing a function of government, that they create, like say the driver's license or your health card or whatever, that are operating as your employment badges. So when you're talking about it's an employment insurance, it could be because it's the insurance that you're being covered as an agent of government, but not necessarily through employment of a sub-corporation that is working through that corporation.
Right. So because you're invested in this, you might not want to dissolve this just because you realize that you have a nationality and you have birth rights. Especially if, married, children, whatever like that. You know what I mean? if for some reason you let them know about dissolving this, and when you dissolve this, you dissolve all this too, everything else that's tied to it, then you might be in the doghouse with your wife or whatever. You know what I mean? You're gonna have some issues to deal with, right? So it's all about not creating issues for yourself and picking your battles. So in that instance, it might not be wise to dissolve this immediately, but work towards, I wouldn't say dissolve, but distancing yourself from its application or its connection to yourself, right? Same thing with the driver's license. If your livelihood is, you drive trucks and that's how you feed your family, and you've been doing that for 40 years, and you come into this information, don't just throw away your license. We're going to cut this up because it's not me and all that stuff, talking like, the whole sovereign citizen panic mode stuff. It's not panic mode. Don't worry. You know what it is, right? You know what it implies, so you use it according to what you know it implies. So we know that this has to do with commerce, right? If you're not doing this, then this doesn't apply. And then that's it. You start going into talking about other stuff, you're going to get yourself into some jurisdiction that you don't want to be in. When you can just stick to this. Let me see your license. I'm not engaged in commerce. Yeah, but everybody has to have a license if they're engaged in commerce. Well, okay, let me see what else you want. Well, you got to have something on you. And then that's when you have your nationality card that you can present or whatever. Right? Now, what I told Brother Supreme to look up was ab initio.
So they have themselves, it's a board by itself and an ab initio by itself.
Yeah.
So Black's Law's dictionary, fourth edition, I'll read void first. Void, null, ineffectual, nugatory, having no legal force or binding effect, unable in law to support the purpose of which it is intended. And then ab initio, from the beginning, from the first act, entirely, as to all the acts done in the inception. A party may be said to be a trespasser on a mistake to be good, an agreement or deed to be void, or a marriage act to be unlawful, ab initio. Before, contrasted in a sense with ex post facto.
All right. So, do you have to dissolve these instruments? You can, but ultimately they're void, ab initio. No legal force, unable from the beginning, before. So because you have no obligation to these, because they're void, right? All you have to do is be yourself. And have a firm stance in being yourself. And recognizing that you can't be these. You can't be these. Right? So you can't say my, or our. You can't imply that this is yours, because it's not. And if you imply that, then you're stealing. Right? When people say authenticate the birth certificate, if it's void ab initio, no legal force, unable, then what? What are you authenticating? Why are you trying to make claim on something that's void? And then that shows people's ignorance. Because now they have a contract out there that they filed saying that they're claiming something that's void. And if you claim something that's void, clearly you're a stupid guy. So why would you claim something that's void?
Or criminal.
Or criminal.
Because you're challenging them and telling them that it's fraud, but yet you're claiming it at the same time. So you're party of it.
Right. Making yourself party.
Making yourself party.
When you weren't party before because it was void. Like we weren't tied to these. Like we come into this we have these instruments, right? And then we come into this information. When we had these information, they were void. Anybody who you know with one of these can tell you somebody they know that hasn't gotten into an accident in a long time, hasn't got a ticket in a long time, right? But they still have this. Why? If they have this, and the purpose of this is for, if they get stopped or whatever, they can prove that they're able to operate that, whatever they're using. But they never get stopped. Did they need this? So ultimately, this is not needed really. But it's needed in the aspect of commerce. But in everyday going to the store, going to my friend's house, whatever, you don't need this. This doesn't apply. And the only way it applies is if people agree that it applies. Just like you're going to have one of these, you're going to have a driver's license to fish. Crazy. Other places you go, you get a fishing license. Here, you have a driver's license to fish.
Wow. Which is it's basically exposing the fraud. They're not even trying to hide it.
They're not even hiding.
Especially when you go to certain, let's say, certain de facto government institutions, and they ask for ID. The first thing they're asking for is a driver's license.
It's a driver's license.
Doesn't make any sense.
Automatic.
What does that have to do, like, based on the institution that you're in, what does that have to do with driving? Why would I need a driver's license to identify myself? It doesn't make any sense. And then you know it's deeper than that. It has nothing to do with driving.
Even with buying certain things at stores where you need an
identification, that's for a driver's license.
Yep.
Which is just nonsense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's nonsense.
You're not going to buy a car in
Unless they're moving towards that.
Yeah, because I was speaking with Jeff. It's, let's say, traveling.
Yeah.
So the driver's license in itself, it's an instrument. Right?
Yeah.
So the same thing with the passport.
Right. All the same thing.
Technically, like it says, like on our traveling car.
Yeah.
From the state law, no state shall.
Right, shall. Right. Now, what we have to remember is that those case laws are talking from a perspective of that who you're engaging is the state. That's not the state that we're engaging. That's private corporation.
Yeah.
So that technically doesn't apply, really. But we put it on there because that's what the law is. So they can't say that they weren't told what the law is. Because we're the ones that have to keep the law. As Moors. We're the ones that have to see that law's lacking and correct it. Because nobody else is doing it. Because nobody else is really has the authority to do it. Because they're not here. They're not from here to do it. And if they are going to do it, they're going to claim to do it under the guise of some governmental office. But that office is not government. That office is a private corporation.